Greetings all. So this is just a little video on what distinguishes Tantric Yoga from other forms of yoga. Well, first of all, we need to note that here we're using the word yoga in its original sense. For most of the history of the word, it meant meditation practice, meditative practice of various kinds. Not to say there aren't other meanings. There's many, many, many meanings to the word yoga. And those meanings apply in different contexts. But when we're talking about spiritual practice, right, yoga means meditation. And indeed, this is what we find in the Sanskrit dictionaries themselves. And I don't mean Sanskrit to English dictionaries. I mean Sanskrit dictionaries. Just like you can look up an English word and it'll tell you in English what that word means. There's ancient Sanskrit dictionaries. You can open one up, look up a word, and it gives you other Sanskrit words to help you narrow the meaning. So if you look up yoga in one of the Sanskrit dictionaries, the Amarakosha, then you see samadhi. Yoga means samadhi, and indeed that's what we see in the Yoga Sutra as well. And so yoga means meditation. And again, the word has other meanings, specifically can denote the result of meditation practice. So yoga can denote the goal, as it often does in texts like Bhagavad Gita and Yoga Sutra. But when it denotes practice, it specifically means meditation practice. So for most of the history of the tradition, somebody says the word yoga, then people would imagine somebody sitting in meditation. And this changed only in the 20th century. So having said that, Tantric Yoga is a specific style of meditation or a specific way of doing meditation. And what distinguishes Tantric Yoga is specifically that it features the entrainment of multiple different elements. So entrainment means bringing together in a single flow. So for example, if you're walking along with a friend and at first your footsteps are out of sync and then they naturally sync up without really paying attention to it, then that's entrainment, okay? So bringing disparate elements together in a single rhythm or a single flow. And in Tantric Yoga, we see the entrainment of these elements of practice: attention, breath, mantra, mudra, and visualization. And sometimes even more elements such as attitude, bhava, and specific kind of physical actions called bandhas. So there could be up to 7 different elements entrained in a single Tantric Yoga practice, but there could be as few as 2 elements entrained. So I'll give you a specific example. Really, our best example is the first practice found in the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. So the practice we find in verses 24 through 27. And this particular practice can be done with more or less layers, more or less elements entrained, right? So in this practice, you've got attention and breath as the minimum. So these 2 elements, attention and breath, can be entrained by, you imagine you're breathing in through the crown of the head down to the base of the heart, and then exhaling from the base of the heart up and out the crown of the head to a point above the head, right? So you've got a focal point of attention, which is moving down and up, and it's in sync with the breath. So this focal point of attention is being inhaled down to the base of the heart and then exhaled up to Dwadashanta above the head. And you can just do the practice that way, right? Or you can layer in more elements. And this is exactly what typifies Tantric Yoga, that you can have as many elements as you like. Why would you have more as opposed to less. The main reason is you give your mind enough to focus on so that it can't really do anything else, right? So if you don't give your mind enough to focus on, it can be sort of thinking about past and future events instead of being fully present in the practice. So you give it more to focus on, right? So the busier mind needs more elements in the practice. And a mind that's already pretty quiet needs fewer elements in the practice. So this is a matter of upaya, skillful means or effective method. Do what works. So this is important because, you know, the teacher can't tell you, this is how many elements you should use, go. You need to experiment with what works for you. Do you utilize 2 elements, 3, 4, or 5? So I'll explain with this specific example that we have here, right? So the minimum, again, is attention and breath, right? But you can also have visualization in this particular practice I was talking about. You can visualize a brilliant point of light called a bindu point, a brilliant point of sparkling light. And you can visualize that's what you're exhaling up here and inhaling down to the base of the heart. You're inhaling this brilliant sparkling point of light down to the base of the heart and exhaling it up. So that's the visualization element, right? If you wanted, you could, you know, pick a particular mudra and follow that point with your mudra, right? If it is helpful for you, right? So another element, let's see, we had mantra, mudra, mantra, yeah. So you can also add in any 2-syllable mantra to this particular practice, such as Om, Hreem, or Ham, Sa. And that gives you more to focus on, occupies the mind more. So for those who have a very thinky mind, which is most people these days, I suppose, mantra helps the mind stay fully immersed in the practice because it's a word or a pair of syllables that adds in, that it kind of entrains the linguistic module of the brain. So from a neuroscience perspective, that's exactly what's going on. We've got different brain modules and we want to get as many involved as possible, okay? So I could be then doing the mantra Hamsa while, so I'm entraining mantra, breath, visualization, attention, and possibly mudra. Inhaling the point of light down to the base of the heart on Hum, exhaling it up on Sa, if I'm using the mantra Hamsa. And then lastly, I might want to add in some gentle bandhas if I'm into the Hatha Yoga aspect of the practice, right? So I would inhale the point of light down to the base of the heart with the mantra or the syllable Hum, and then pause at the base of the heart and do a gentle Mula Bandha. And then I would hold that Mula Bandha as I exhale up the mantra Sa and the point of light up to the crown. And then I'm going to add a gentle Uddiyana Bandha at the crown. Pause, release both bandhas, and inhale down the point of light with the mantra Hum. Okay. So there, now I've got 6 different elements entrained, and the key is entrainment. They're all in the single flow. That's what makes it Tantric Yoga. This is what distinguishes Tantric Yoga. This is not emphasized in other forms of yoga, this entrainment of multiple elements in a single flow, right? We all experience it in physical yoga class when the teacher says, well, the most ubiquitous instruction, inhale the arms up. So just hit the table. Inhale the arms up, right? So there's an entrainment of movement and breath, right? Or if you're doing, you know, Surya Namaskar, you're entraining the movements with the breath and with mantras, possibly, if you're using the Surya Namaskar mantras. So then you can have a triple entrainment there in a moving asana practice, right? And if you want to make your asana practice more tantric, you would add in a visualization element, specifically a point of light within the body that's the focal point of the pose. So that gives you more to focus on, and so you become more immersed in the practice, and you can't be, thinking about anything else really. So that's the that's the idea then, that Tantric yoga is an entrainment of anywhere from 2 to 7 elements, where they're all entrained in a single flow. They're all fused together, like in the example I just gave, right? That's not to say that every Tantric yoga practice features entrainment. It's just the main motif of Tantric yoga practice that distinguishes it. So from a very practical point of view, if anyone were to ask you, well, what is Tantric yoga? What makes it Tantric? Well, first you would say, oh, well, it's Tantric yoga because it comes from these particular primary sources called tantras. But on the practical level, it's Tantric yoga because it features the entrainment of attention, breath, mantra, mudra, visualization, and sometimes also bandhas and attitude, bhava, like an attitude of reverence or an attitude of gratitude. Okay, so somebody asks in the comment section, these are meant as doorways for going into meditation, right? Yes, of course. But if by meditation there, you probably mean samadhi, right? Where we're talking about just reposing in awareness itself, okay? So yes, you do the practice, which again, you choose how many elements, right? If 5 elements is too many for you because you already have a pretty quiet mind and that seems too busy, then you just work with 2 elements in that practice, or maybe 3, so you got to kind of find your sweet spot. But it's also good to practice, using all the elements sometimes, right? To see what it feels like when you can actually settle into a practice that's utilizing different modules in the brain, as it were. But yes, whether you're using 2 elements or 5 elements, or somewhere in between, doesn't matter. After doing the practice for a while, maybe it's 15 minutes, then you just release the technique, you let go of all technique, and you repose in awareness itself. And that's what great meditation teacher Adyashanti calls true meditation. That's what some authorities call samadhi. And then someone else asks, is the breath observed or willed? Well, it's there's a gray area, actually. I don't want to get on board with that black and white distinction. There's a gray area where there's a gentle willing of the breath, in terms of it has to be long enough to sort of be able to traverse this distance from Dwadashanta down to the base of the heart and back up again. So there's a certain amount of willing, but it's gentle. It's very gentle effort, right? There's no kind of hardcore control here. So this is pranayama in the sense of lengthening the breath, not in the sense of controlling the breath, right? Okay. So little spontaneous video on this topic. Seemed like we needed some clarification on what Tantric yoga really is. And there you go. Om.